Hello there everyone, welcome back. It is time to finally bring you some ranked matches there. And I'm gonna have to say, I've had a little bit of difficulty getting the queues in because I'm guessing there's not nearly as many people playing ranked mode, especially now that the championship is over, in comparison to progression mode, which will make bringing you these matches a little bit difficult for me, but we got some matches nonetheless. So, we're gonna be facing off first off against Space Marines. And if you remember what I said before, if you've been watching my Twitch streams there, I think Space Marine's probably going to have the hardest time against Eldar, especially with all the armor penetration abilities, let alone the torpedo potential is ridiculous with me being able to just negate the Chapter Master's Brace for Impact benefit. So, what would be a 55, well, it's not really 55%, it's what? 53 or something like that. I can't remember exactly how much the Chapter Master boosts his their brace for impact, but nonetheless, with the torpedo's potential to just completely negate that outright, there's a lot of amazing burst potential to basically do, especially when it turns out he decides to field a battle barge. And do you see what else I see? And it's not the Lance variant I'm referring to. That battle barge has the, Master of the Forge favor. And if you know what that means, it basically means he has so much more renown infested on that battle barge. Because for any other favorite ship, that's only 1600 renown, on top of upgrades and all that there, which already is a hefty amount of favor. But with the Master of the Forge, he basically has 4 extra upgrade slots, which take up even more renown. 400 per upgrade, in fact, so already I'm planning on destroying that battle barge as quickly as possible, almost zealously, I want to argue, because destroying that is going to completely cripple the rest of his army, because I basically did the math already, roughly. It's about 6,000 renown, just maybe a little bit under. Because what? Just regular battle barge, just a regular battleship with upgrades is basically 2,400 renown. And when you keep in mind the fact that you only have 8,000 to spend, that builds up. That is quite significant on its own. But when you add in 1,600 for the favor, and then another 1,600 for the 4 upgrade slots he had to fit in there, we're easily looking at 5,000, 6,000 renown. I can't remember the exact value off the top of my head, but I did do the math, and it's easily over half of the renown he could have invested on a ship. So I am going to go all out on this battle barge. I'm basically going to neglect the other ships, trying to ignore the Gladius, but he's going to make it a little bit difficult for me, for he's probably going to start shielding his battle barge with his other ships there. He's not quite prepared for it just yet as I slowly bring down the shields, and I also checked before engaging, he does not have the supercharged void shield, so this justifies my full-on aggression. As I fire torpedoes, fly right past the Gladius. Unfortunately, he did manage to shoot down the first torpedo wave quite effectively. We did get a little bit hits in, probably a couple with the bombers that are about to reach there, but not as effective as it could have been because of all the Thunderhawks being launched from his auto casting, I want to assume. But the shields are about to go down. I try frantically to get that hit in, and thankfully the Star Cannons just do enough damage that I need to. There's a little bit of miscontrol here. I probably should have followed maneuver before boosting out, because I was trying to dodge the Gladius, in which case I just promptly barged right into it there. But we got an open window here. The Maelstrom spam is coming on down to try and chip this thing down quickly. And with its lance weaponry, it's kind of not a huge threat, thankfully. I don't have to worry about bombardment cannons so much, but the macrobatters still are doing a bit of damage. And this one Gladius, damn it. This one Gladius that I could have killed if I made it a priority is messed up with my AI, my pathing there. It completely ruined my attack run with the pulsars, so that was basically 100, maybe 150 hull damage I missed out on because of that, I think. So it is a little frustrating how the pathing works there, but this thing is dying quickly nonetheless, despite the aggressive play, and boy, does he ever get all those boarding attempts on that Aurora. But thank God, at least it's just an Aurora. We can easily deal with that. Losing Aurora, the Void Stalker is kind of the more valuable ship, but as generator goes down from a lucky critical hit, it is vulnerable to this next attack run. Now, the moment of truth. Can I get the bomber hits the extra torpedoes, which are still 10 seconds away from reloading? Can they get the killing blow? This lance fire is not really all that scary, but with the generators down, actually, yeah, I don't have the 80% chance of blocking. It's more like 40%. So, this Void Stalker is going to take a lot of hits, but I'm a little bit slow on this brace for impact. Maybe I should have done it a lot more earlier, but if it can survive, if it can just stay heavily damaged, at least I'm sure to have it for the final round. But no, the one random broadside batteries from the Vanguards of all things kill it. But we get the victory, we get the kill. It may have been a little more sloppier than I would have liked, maybe a little more costly, but I feel like it was justified. All I really lost as far as my main fleet was the Void Stalker. And thankfully I have two eclipses to help supplement the loss of that ship. But it turns out the strategy was still an effective one, because he will now promptly just concede the match right away. He's not even going to try to go for a second match. With what I told you before, he invested so much in that battle barge. It's not exactly equipped to deal with Eldar very effectively with the Lance setup, but it was still a lot of renown, regardless. I don't even think he can afford, a chapter master on one of his strike cruisers or anything else there, and still be able to get the upgrades he will want for all his other fleets there. So he would have to cut out, just in that regard, possibly not even have a second favor if he wants to have his boring torpedoes, if he wants to have his belt armor, and anything else he might need. So he just straight up concedes, unfortunately. And while I really dislike these anticlimactic matches there, it was mostly due to a flaw in his strategy, needless to say. So we're just going to bring you in the next match there that I managed to get over these past few days. I am definitely going to make a serious effort to try and get a couple matches in for the weekend, so we don't have this kind of lapse that I had over the past few days. At least that's what it feels like. Alright, time for match 2 of my first initial ranked mode play, and we're once again playing up against Space Marines there. And this will go a little bit into my thought process as I get the choice of map here. I want to try and stick to 600 point battles, mainly because it makes it a lot more easier for me to control my fleet there. At least until I really can say I'm comfortable piloting my ships, controlling them. I would like to try and minimize the hassle a little bit. So, interestingly enough, I choose a planetary assault of all things, which in theory kind of works well for me. I almost want to argue it might be better for me to be the attacker, because then I'm not at risk of losing randomly because of bad bombardment placements as the battle progresses. But I like the planetary assault because it kind of forces him to spread out possibly, or force him to move around the map if he really wants to go after the objectives, whether protecting them or trying to attack them. It works well for me. I like to think, even as the attacker, I think it bodes well for me. I just need to get a good handful of matches in so I can say for certain, because when we're facing off against another Space Marine fleet, I don't think it's going to be the best example, unless of course he happens to go the frigate swarm with like 3 Vanguards or something. That could be a threat. Maybe not much of one, because then if he has to spread out or move his cruisers away from me, it opens up such a window for me to counterattack so viciously there, because he kind of has to turn the majority of his ships, or at least his main points or his main ships there in the Vanguards. And that again leaves them open for me to just bomb the Vanguards with just the Void Stalker alone, or just all my shadows that I have available. If I'm aware he's going the frigate swarm, that's something I need to keep in mind. It's really hard to actually judge if he's going that route or not, but in this case, he's actually going to just go straight battle barge and, battle barge, strike cruiser, and a Vanguard. So, I could tell you it's not the 2 torpedo strike cruisers and the battle barge here. Instead, I think he opted to go for the Thunderhawk strike cruiser, which is why he didn't have the points to field a second strike cruiser, because he would be just slightly over, unless of course he went for the lance variant. But again, with him relying on a single lance there, it's not going to be nearly as effective as say Chaos with their massive array of lance weaponry. There's a bit of a difference, and at first I was kind of worried that he was going to destroy these beacons, but that is instantly rectified with this Void Stalker close enough to deal with these, at least the single battle barge just blowing torpedoes of all things. If there was like 3 of them, it's entirely possible those torpedoes could have gotten to the beacon in time, but I would easily had more than enough shots at least to realistically take them down. So I get to keep my stasis bombs from the beacons at least to help contribute, or at least give me a bit of a fallback point, which is really damn handy with all these stasis bombs, because they are actually essential, come to think of it, to kind of be able to retreat against a really tenacious opponent. So I know he's hiding the gas cloud. Hell, I even see the Stormhawks there to kind of know where he's positioned at, and the boarding torpedoes just help escalate where I can attack. But we go after the first thing we see is going to be the Vanguard, so we just unload, and ooh, even with the shield transfer, that thing is wrecked. That thing is just immediately wrecked, and of course, belt armor kicks in as the bombardment cannons just hammer. At least the one bombardment can actually hit the damn thing. And of course, they are bombardment cannons, so with the fragile state, that's basically a guaranteed hit. Ooh, and if I was paying attention, I could just boost it to dodge that second salvo too. That's something I really need to pay attention, because it's so easily abusable against the bombardment cannons, let alone the battle barge. I could just boost away, and then he has such a long recharge. But as it stands now, we already got rid of the Vanguard. We turn our attention to the strike cruiser, get rid of all his mobility. And damn, he made a comment about all the burst damage there before, which kind of leads me to believe he's a brand new player, but I thought it was the torpedoes that was wrecking him. Apparently the lances are what's doing the work there. As I lob my torpedoes, try and get what hits I can, we get a nice salvo on the battle barge as we begin to soften it up some. At least the first salvo hit. The boost unfortunately makes him dodge the second salvo, but the strike cruiser is not long for this world. Hell, I just turned the Void Stalker to make it embrace its imminent doom. So nice simple engagement so far. Probably took a little more hits than I would like, mainly because I need to actively watch for those bombardment cannons. I could probably afford to take the macro battery hits a little bit more, but it's the bombardment cannons that can really screw me over with how effective the Space Marines are with the critical hits. It is no joke, and that's something I could pretty much improve on for this match alone, even with how demoralizing it probably is for him there, with this battle barge so easy to kite and hit with torpedoes. And I did warp out the outdoor roar there. I did warp it out there, because why not, quite frankly. We're playing a best of 3 match here. It's already in damn good shape. Hell, even the Prow just got destroyed completely, so there goes his Thunderhawks, there goes his main lance weaponry, so it's just the broadside that's the big scare. That's the big scare right now, and torpedoes are going to help weaken it nicely. Weaken it really damn nicely. 3 fires, it's limping, it's crippling, he's already flying away from me, so just 3 shots at this point. Hell, I almost forgot about the objective there, which spawned on the far side. But this is the comment where I was wondering maybe he didn't understand the potential of the torpedoes. Hell, it was the pulsars alone that just wrecked him. You saw how easily that Vanguard just died. Wow. Even with the shield transfer, it was quick. Unfortunately, it was a bit of a newer player there. I'm not gonna lie. It was a bit one-sided there. Maybe I could have done a bit better, as I mentioned before, because I can actively dodge those bombardment cannons if I engage properly, because like a zigzag formation there with enough distance could allow me to just dodge the first salvo, and then falls maneuver and boosting out will help me dodge the second one as I'm retreating away. So there are still things I could do there as I try and figure out the Eldar faction. And despite, what he says there, at least with the battle barge, I feel like Eldar is just gonna murder Space Marines almost every day, just because they're ranged more often than not. If they could have like 12,000 unit range, kind of like how the Imperial Navy did, especially with my ranked plays, I think they can do a lot more, but they have to deal with at least 9,000 in range, which can be tricky if they can't spot the target ahead of time to get those shots. But as it stands, he decides to concede as well at some point, so it's a little unfortunate that these matches have been one-sided. They are Space Marines though, so I think this would be the easiest matchup for me, to be fair, and the most demoralizing for my opponents, especially when they decide to go with battle barges. So not a lot I can say about that at this point. I'm really worried about the frigate swarm though, mainly from my own personal experience using them. Nonetheless, I would have liked to have brought better matches, but I'm hoping to fix that over the weekend. Here's hoping.